Can I persuade you to join us for a drink? It's a tradition. Here, here.
Jar Jar, homie, my main man, quickly. Before the Separatists attack, get into the escape pod.
Hey! This is escape, then we're the pod.
Welcome back to Star Wars Escape Pod and our first day of enjoying Star Wars Celebration online. We've got Blake in the podcast, in the Escape Pod, should I say, just waiting for us to get in there and chat about the recap or the review of day one, enjoying Celebration online. And for those of you guys in person listening to our podcast, extremely honored that you make the time in your evening after Celebration to enjoy a show with us. We're going to do our best to recap exactly what happened, what we were able to catch online, enjoying Celebration from home, and all the news that leaked out from those panels that they don't actually officially release information from, but we're going to get to it. And we're glad that you guys are with us for the ride. So let's get into it.
Another happy landing.
Hours away from people being able to see this. Is there anything you want the fans to know, or any last thing you want to say to them before we get to see this series tonight?
This is where the fun begins.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Oh my goodness!
Man, people were just going absolutely nuts when he said that.
Right?
Oh man, it was so good. I just burst out laughing. I thought that was the highlight of the day.
You know that he knows the fandom. He's gonna say something like that, right?
We're all so excited to see him back, of course, and with tonight being the premiere at midnight. We're going to have the first two, I think it's the first two episodes of Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Oh man, yeah.
Coming
I think
out
that's what I heard as well.
Yeah. So, it's going to be a ride, and, to see the show come out finally after about a year and a bit of waiting. I feel like the time's just flown right by, but, we're all very excited for it.
Yeah, for sure. And such a good point. It feels like a long wait, but also was pretty fast.
Yeah.
I know this is the series I'm probably the most excited for that I've been. So,
yeah.
Because, man, a show about Ewan McGregor, right? You can't go wrong. He's everyone's favorite prequel character. He's knocked it out of the park. He's so much fun. So glad to see him back. I'm really excited.
Oh, it's so good to see them back. Yeah. And, as far as Ewan goes, I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed seeing him in Christopher Robin, which I feel like was his last Disney collaboration, or, working with the company. And, that movie just brought tears to my eyes. It was such a great film, touching for a grown-up person to look back at Winnie the Pooh, and it was made for people like our age. But it's so good to see him back as Obi-Wan Kenobi, and we're all gonna just love the heck out of this show. Beyond the Dickens, John Williams back directing or orchestrating the theme for Obi-Wan Kenobi as well. And for those lucky,
that's awesome. That's news as of today, right? They never told anyone about that, I don't think.
They it was news that he was going to be there playing for people in person. I don't think that was expected at all. I know we were all blown away a couple of years ago when he showed up at Star Wars Celebration and played for the opening day, the opening theme or whatever. But yeah, I think it was a couple months ago or so that it was revealed that John Williams would be coming back and reprising his role to do a theme song for the show. But that's all we knew. So good to hear it though. Seeing it in full, and I posted a link to someone's recording on their phone in the Discord chat. So if any of you guys who are listening, follow the Celebration Buzz channel in our Discord.
It's just weird that they released the song and they titled it "The Death of Obi-Wan." It's bizarre, right?
Yeah, it's.
Just kidding.
I feel like they'll never make that mistake again.
That was such a bad like oversight from Phantom Menace.
Yeah, actually, you want to explain to people exactly what that joke is all about?
So back when the Phantom Menace was about to hit theaters, they released the soundtrack early, and one of the final songs was called "The Death of Qui-Gon." So everybody who saw that knew going into the movie before they'd seen it for the first time that Qui-Gon was going to die.
Yeah, it's like at the same time, you almost kind of know it's going to happen. I mean, I feel like everyone going into the Phantom Menace knows that a lot of those Jedi are going to die regardless, but it's just it's so funny though that it's like, oh, I'm going to see this in the movie. It's like the Qui-Gon's funeral soundtrack prominently at track number whatever, before going into the cinema. That's a spoiler centric for sure. The prequels did not handle preliminary spoilers very well, because the novelizations for the films actually came out, I think it was a month or two prior to the film release. So people who were like, super on it would snatch up those novelizations and nail out their story in their head before they go and saw the movie.
I feel like at that point in time, I wouldn't be able to finish it if I read it every day until the release.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess it just goes to show just how indie George was. He wasn't a big franchise kind of monger, like companies now are, which, it's just, there's a sense of control, when you have a lot of franchises, under your belt, which is fair to say. But, George was just like very much, didn't care about any of that stuff. I remember going to StarWars.com and there was webcams. You could see them shooting the film. There's a whole like section on the website, and I forget what it was called now, but it was on StarWars.com. You could see them in like 240p over this crappy webcam setting up sets and shooting.
That pixel. I think that's Anakin.
Yeah. Yeah, it was refreshed every so many minutes or something like that, and it was in the early days. Cool. Yeah, it was in the early days of the internet. When it took.
They would never do that now. Just the amount of like spoilers and stuff. People would be going frame to frame.
Well, this was before YouTube. This was before YouTube and all that. So realistically, I mean, there was no good sense of online video buffering. I remember our old crappy bunny ears TV. Anytime the Revenge of the Sith trailer came on public television, I'd be running into the living room trying to get a glimpse. There was no rewind, there was no internet, there was no YouTube like and dislike count.
And they did different trailers back then. They were like TV spotlights. So there'd only be a couple seconds long, where there'd be different stuff.
Yeah, and they're all different sometimes too. So you get like little different pieces of audio and dialogue and music, and if you're drooling over a movie like we are, then that's everything.
You got to get them all.
That's the highlight of the day.
How funny would it be if it's like two truths and a lie, right? So I don't know, one of them is like Yoda turns to the dark side.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well,
you never know. At least until it's released.
It's done so differently now as far as how information is released to the public. And with conventions like this, they do try and keep stuff under wraps, even in person. They try and make it exclusive. Today, another thing that came up was some footage for Mandalorian Season 3 made its debut in front of audiences for the first time. And that stuff is still not released online. I don't think it will be until a trailer actually comes out. But
I'm sure someone will have their phone recording of it. But
someone did. Yeah, someone did. And it's on a tweet. It's been retweeted 30,000 times, and I posted the link in the Discord.
Wasn't during 2017, did Disney like go after people who did that and try to get it taken down?
Yeah, there's been a few copies that have been, struck down already, and I wouldn't be surprised if the link I sent probably is invalid now at this point. But it is what it is. I mean, it's it gets out there. People get a glimpse. People take snapshots.
Do you think Disney just has people ready to go? They're like, they released the trailer in the panel, and then behind there's like the stage, and then behind that there's just a bunch of lawyers on computers like ready to go, and like they release it, and they just start like refreshing YouTube to like trailer release spoilers, and people are just sitting there like getting ready to like get it taken down.
All right, boys, when we hit play for the main audience here, people are going to be recording. Now, we've got 20 people out there watching for people with phones, but some people keep the brightness down on the screen just enough that we can't catch them. It's those suckers we got to get, and those YouTube channels we got to take down. We got to strike those disclaimer notices right away. Get on it. Charles, I want you on the back computer over there.
All right, men. Mouse cursor over refresh on your browser. And Mark.
Refresh! Yeah.
That's how I picture it going down.
Oh, totally. But yeah, you know, if any of you guys caught a glimpse of that stuff, it was pretty sweet. You got a glimpse of Bo-Katan in the footage, as well as a Mandalorian. Grogu spoke. You know, his squeaky little voice line that he had, which is pretty cool. And that was, from my recollection, that was about it. It wasn't like insanely detailed or anything like that, but you know, it was quite something. As far as actual official release stuff goes, which trailer do you want to start with? Should we kick things off with the non-Lucasfilm or the non-Star Wars stuff, or should we kick things off with the Star Wars stuff?
I think we got to get right into Andor because that looked super cool.
All right, let's do it. All right, everyone, this is the trailer for Star Wars Andor.
So fat and satisfied. They're everywhere. They're watching me now.
Soon enough, these days will end. There will be no rules going forward.
That's what a reckoning sounds like.
All right, Star Wars Andor streaming August 31st. We finally got a date for that show, and you know, it's not to overshadow the hype of Obi-Wan Kenobi, but I mean, that show is looking pretty sweet.
Yep, I agree entirely. I love it opens up with Celebrimbor there. He's got his hammers and he's making the ring. Looks cool.
Yeah, I don't really know what that was about. I you know, I've seen this trailer so many times today now because I was watching the live stream, and you know, they play it between guests and such. You know, when they're trying to fill the stream with something. But it was you know, it's pretty interesting. I got to say, I mean, I suspect that there's going to be quite a bit of flashback going on because the show is confirmed to have takes place 5 years before Rogue One.
Okay.
And
where is that in comparison to Rebels? That's what I was wondering.
I think Rebels always started around the same time and lasting about 4 seasons. I feel like it started 3 to 4 years maybe before Rogue One and kind of led up to the Rogue One time frame. So,
okay.
My theory is that this show is
similar.
Yeah, it's very similar. I'd say it's probably even kind of almost, neck and neck, almost rubbing up against Rebels, leaving just enough room for maybe a second or third season.
So we could see Freddie Prinze Jr. in this.
Yeah, you know what? That would be absolutely awesome. Like,
pretty cool.
They did
That's
kind
Kanan
of.
Jarrus, anyone wondering?
Yeah, they did kind of tease that we would see some characters that were known to us that didn't show up in the trailer. Possibly some very cameo like character show up. Kind of like Cad Bane showing up in Book of Boba. We had no idea that was going to happen, and they kind of surprised us all by pulling that up. But it was.
I'm
mentioned.
cool with that kind of cameo. I hope it's not a blink and you miss it cameo. Where it's like spotting the ghost in the background of Rogue One, for example.
Yeah, I suspect we'll definitely see Saw Gerrera. I feel like Forrest Whitaker's return to the character is probably gonna happen.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I also feel like having
Buckle it.
It's so good, man.
The most memorable line in the whole movie.
Getting characters like Mon Mothma, Genevieve O'Reilly reprising her role from Rogue One and Revenge of the Sith.
So cool. And on Coruscant.
Yeah, we got shots of clone troopers, stormtroopers, death troopers. We got shots of the Imperial Senate. We got shots of a variety of planets, including what looks like to be Cassian Andor's homeworld. And I gather that only because there's a lot of kids all looking up at this crashing ship that's on fire, and they all kind of have this similar physical look to them, as if they're all kind of from the same race
colony
of people
or
colony. Yeah. Probably all Spanish-speaking kids and stuff. And I know when he was cast as the character, they made a big push for that ethnicity being brought to the franchise and in a big way. And so it's kind of neat to see, where he comes from, like that character. And
you think they're gonna give like different planets for different cultured like humans?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, in the way that we all have our own countries, it would kind of make sense.
It would make sense.
Yeah. So, I mean,
and then you get like Coruscant and planets that have a bit of everything.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah, totally. So, I could totally see that happening. It looked more like a more primitive culture as well. So,
you saw Lord of the Ringsy too, right? Where it's like you get like the dwarf area. And the elf
totally,
area.
totally. It had a great vibe about it. I was loving every second of the trailer, and I suspect it's going to be exactly how they describe it to be. It looks like it's got this darker undertone to the story.
Did you write down? They were each asked to describe the series in 3 words.
Yeah. I forget exactly what they said, but the whole genre of it being an espionage style kind of born series was.
I also got some almost James Bond-esque vibes from it too.
Yeah,
maybe not the high-tech gadgets side, but like the espionage.
Yeah, because this is a time in which the Empire has now been ruling for 15 years. And this is 5 years after the Kenobi show takes place. So there's still Inquisitors running around out there hunting Jedi. The events of Rebels have not yet taken place. So a lot of the Inquisitors, including the Grand Inquisitor, is still alive. So, there's a chance that maybe having filmed that show in parallel with Kenobi, maybe we might get some cameos between those characters as well. Yeah,
you're right. So in that case, at least if the books are still canon, probably won't see Kanan unless it is like a one-off and he isn't a Jedi quotations yet, because ex-Jedi. But we might see Hera.
That would be really cool. If we
Chopper,
saw, if we saw some sort of live action Hera or Chopper or something, that would be pretty cool. We start things off with that crew, the crew of the Ghost, in a book that we both read way back when. It was the first canon novel ever to be produced. It was called The New Dawn. And
New Dawn. It was also one of the first books to lose canonicity.
Yeah. So it was the first book to be classified as canon, and then when we all saw the show, it felt so far from what we read. That it almost felt like it should have been non-fiction. I don't know. I just felt the book was much more gritty than the show was. But of course, like the book was targeting adults and the show was targeting kids. So
it kind of an odd decision.
It was. They should have made it a junior novel instead.
Yeah. If we want to get into it, the only issue was Kanan Jarrus was two entirely different characters.
Yeah. And in the show, he was much more wholesome, much more kind of
he's so gritty in the novel.
In the novel, he's really gritty. Yeah, a lot more kind of Wolverine-esque style. Yeah,
exactly. That's a good way to describe it.
Yeah. But yeah, looking forward to the show. It's going to be fantastic. And anyone should definitely go and check that trailer out. It's going to be great. They did announce a new series today, which was teased a little while ago in the Vanity Fair article. But now we finally have a logo and we finally have a name, as well as a casting of Jude Law as a unspecified character in a new series called Skeleton Crew. And this is the young, it's like kind of a coming of age, directed and produced by John Watts, who is primarily known as the guy who recently made all of the new Sony Marvel Spider-Man films. And it'll take place, excuse me, I have a description here, if I can find it. So it is... I can read it. Yeah, go for it.
Oh, you got it? Okay. So, Star Wars Skeleton Crew. This new series will follow up a group of 10-year-old kids from a small planet who get lost in a galaxy far, far away and must try to find their way home. The story will take place after Star Wars Return of the Jedi and will fit within the timeline The Mandalorian and Ahsoka takes place in. So it's going to be around the same time as The Mandalorian.
Perfect. Thank you. So this is definitely, I guess, almost, at least to me, it feels like a filler for the loss of Rangers of the New Republic. Does it?
Yeah, that's what I got from the vibe of the title card. But reading it makes me wonder and kind of hope that it's a bunch of Phantom Menace style Anakins.
Yeah.
Are you an angel?
Coming of age is really it's a difficult age group to pin, because on the one hand, you can almost say, yeah, it'll be 10 to 12-year-old kids, but on the other hand, it's like
I feel like it's going to be like the Goonies. That's my first impression reading it.
That's my thoughts too. I don't really know how I feel about that. I know younger kids would definitely love it, but I remember being in grade 5 and being that age, and Revenge of the Sith was like the coolest thing I'd ever seen. So
kids get murdered. I mean, younglings.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I didn't grow up in the most progressive household. I mean, we were quite reserved when it came to violence in films and such. So I almost wasn't allowed to go and see it, believe it or not. But it was the best thing I'd ever seen. And I think when it comes to a show like this, like the age group that they're targeting, it's a bit confusing whether or not they are targeting, in fact, that same age group, or if they're trying to go younger with their Star Wars approach.
I feel like as a kid, I always watch shows with kids that are a bit older than me. Yeah. So they might be targeting kids 6 through like 10.
Yeah, that's my thoughts.
Which that means this will be the first live action Star Wars content ever that targets that young of an audience.
So basically, the live action version of Star Wars Rebels kind of brought to the same age group, is what you're saying.
Exactly. Yeah. Maybe not even Rebels. Maybe Resistance.
Yeah. Well, I hope it's not bad. I mean, like it's got Jude Law in it. I mean, I love Jude Law as an actor.
I feel like he wouldn't sign on unless he'd read the script and look good.
Yeah. So I mean, I have hopes for the show, and obviously we can't expect the world from it being geared for such younger kids. But I mean, there's some classics though. I mean, John Watts is a brilliant guy. There's some kids movies that just remain classics despite being targeted at an age group like that.
And I have to say, I'm really excited to see how Jude Law pulls off playing a 10-year-old child.
Yeah, I love how it's like targeted at that age group, and this like specified that it has a cast full of 10-year-olds, and then the only one they announce is Jude Law.
Yeah, exactly.
Most notable.
Which kid is he gonna be?
Yeah. Which kid is he gonna be? So yeah, Skeleton Crew, everyone, the next Disney Plus show. I'm kind of curious whether or not this will come out before Ahsoka or not. I mean, maybe the episodes will be shorter. I mean, if we're expecting this to be targeted at a younger age group, I don't think we're going to be getting 45-minute episodes. I think we're going to be looking at maybe a 20 episode or 20 minute, maybe 12 episode season or something, half the budget. Yeah. So yeah, there was some, if you want to move on here, there was some other cool stuff announced at Celebration. I noticed, I just had to jot this down, but there's a Jon Favreau Mandalorian Tar Vizsla, or what I forget the name. I think it's Tar, maybe it's someone else, but something, he plays Vizsla in the Mandalorian, and he's demasked.
Wasn't it post Vizsla?
Post Vizsla, yeah.
As opposed to pre Vizsla, the character Jon Favreau played.
They got a shot of a Jon Favreau action figure, Mandalorian armor, standing next to a Dave Filoni and an X-wing pilot, action figure. Like, dude, this is just.
We gotta get that and George in his Stormtrooper armor and put them all together.
How do I not own any of these yet? Like, there's, I know the John one was just announced, but I mean the Dave Filoni one, apparently it's been out for a little bit, and there's a George Lucas one in a Stormtrooper costume running around somewhere, which I've yet to find. So we got to get our hands on these. They're absolutely fantastic. They should keep making these. Make a Pablo Hidalgo in like a, some sort of costume of some kind. Maybe throw him in a gonk droid.
Or what if they did a R2-D2 where you could take the top off and take Kenny Baker out?
Yeah, exactly. There were some really cool Indiana Jones props that were announced, which I think they're being done in collaboration with the Hasbro line. But there's one representing every movie. So there's the Gold Idol, the Crystal Skull, the Cup from The Last Crusade, as well as the Magic Rock thing from Temple of Doom. So if anyone's a big Indy fan,
and they look cool.
They look really good. They look so sick. And I
feel like they're trying to compete with the Harry Potter props you can buy from Universal Studios.
Well, they've been nailing out these cool Hasbro series for both Marvel and Star Wars for a while now. Star Wars primarily the lightsabers and the helmets, and the Marvel stuff they've been doing a variety of things like Mjolnir, as well as Cap's shield, all the variants it comes in, as well as like Thor's hammer. And a few other things. They've done all the Infinity Gauntlets, and it's been a cool lineup. So now they're finally kind of embracing the Indiana Jones franchise a bit more, with the hype of Indy 5 right around the corner. Which, speaking of which, they finally kind of set loose a still, which was taken, I'm assuming, from a shot in the film, which has Indy climbing across a old, battered, broken bridge thing in a cave. And
very similar to the bridge she has to cross in, which one is it? I think it's Raiders.
Yeah. So I mean, it's not much of a tease, but it's just cool to finally see like the fruition of Indy 5 just around the corner.
No, it's not. I think it's Temple of Doom. Ending in Temple of Doom.
Were you always a big Indy fan?
I was, yeah. I'm always a huge Indiana Jones fan.
I never knew that until this past year. I never knew that Temple of Doom actually was intended to be a prequel to the 4-part series.
I had heard that, but they also never really explained it that well. And obviously Harrison Ford is slightly older, so
yeah.
I still watch it as number 2. I don't care if it's a prequel. It's not my canon.
Yeah, so apparently if you watch The Complete Adventures of Indiana Jones, which includes the adventures of young Indiana Jones. Yeah, it is chapter-wise, because they sort it into chapters. It is...
I think I had some of those, actually.
Yeah.
Because I had the old VHS box set. There's 4 tapes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and they have the chapter numbers on the side.
Yeah, that's right. That's the one.
So yeah, Temple of Doom is chronologically prior to the other 2 films, which is kind of interesting. But Yeah. So they had, I think, did we bring this up? We already brought the Mandalorian footage up, but they revealed the trailer, or sorry, the logo for Mandalorian. And you mentioned something interesting about the color scheme of.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty funny because you showed a picture with all 3 seasons next to each other. And I didn't really notice this before, but now that we have all 3, the first season of Mandalorian is this kind of orangey, sandy color. And then the second one's this snowy blue color. And the third one's this, I think it's a sunset, but it's a very green sky.
Yeah.
And so it looks like the original trilogy.
Yeah.
You got Tatooine, you got Hoth, and you got Forest Moon Andor.
Yeah, it's pretty neat that they've kind of mirrored that, I guess. Which makes me wonder if they're stopping at season 3.
Also makes me wonder if they're going to do the same color scheme for every series going forward.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder.
Red, blue, green. Red, blue, green. Red, blue, green.
Well, with Ahsoka, they've kicked off things with a white. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's tough to say. I never saw that coming, but I guess things happen to work out, when they do the second and third season. Maybe they're like, oh, let's do it this way.
Yeah, it's just become a habit now, Lucasfilm.
Yeah. Yeah. So there was a variety of speakers today, which included an entire panel with Ian McDiarmid called An Audience with the Emperor. They also had a High Republic Phase 2 panel with all the authors and creators, which spoke at the panel. They had highlight interviews with John and Dave. Ewan
that was good talk. That was cool.
That was fantastic. Yeah. Always great hearing John and Dave, speak about anything. And
yeah, Dave mentioned specifically that he's in the middle of actually directing the Ahsoka series, so he came down just for celebration and he's heading back to work.
Yeah, and he also name dropped George and his direct apprenticeship to George's filmmaking style and
Kerry Izawa. He made it sound like there was a direct relationship between them. That's what it sounded like.
Yeah, so he carries a little figure or something, he said, of Akira Kurosawa that he hides in all of his scenes, and he has with him on set that he puts next to the viewing monitor. And he kind of uses that as just like a token, I guess, to kind of remind him of that influence in Star Wars, which I thought was really interesting. Just another thing that, why we all love Dave so much. He's really all about the spirit of Star Wars, like, the OG, like the feeling that you get watching something that's Star Wars. He gets it, right? Unlike almost anyone else. So, I've got so much faith that the Ahsoka show is going to be just knocking it right out of the park. And, we're all going to enjoy that one very much.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm curious to see how this turns out, because as a conversation between John and Dave, it's kind of like the script was flipped. Where in Mandalorian, Jon Favreau was writing the scripts and sending it to Dave to see what he thought. But in this one, Dave's writing the scripts and getting John to take a look at it.
Yeah.
So we need to compare the two and see the style difference, I guess.
Yeah, we definitely should. Yeah. We had other panel speakers from Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen, of course. That was great to hear them talk. Ashley Eckstein was up there, voice of Ahsoka Tano. Deborah Chow, who's the director of Obi-Wan Kenobi.
And Ashley, I was surprised how emotional she got up there.
Oh, yeah. Ashley is just such a soft heart. She's always been so embodied of the character that she's basically raised from nothing, being a hated character in the eyes of the fandom to one of the most beloved characters of all time.
Oh man, what a transition, hey? It's crazy.
It makes anyone emotional, really. And to be fair, I mean, like, her character is so much of a perfect Jedi in a way, so to her, she's like,
same as Qui-Gon.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. And she's a bit like her Superman in a way. So I think like Ashley kind of looks up to Ahsoka's morals and, life goals and just what drives her really. And she tries to embody that as best as possible because, it's just I guess Ashley sees it as just a great way to live and bringing goodness to others' lives. And, she's very active, in that sense.
She is.
So
it seems like she's been really active in her own stuff now. Not so much Star Wars. You can tell I feel like it's still a bit of a sore spot with the recasting live action. I think she subtly brought that up in the conversation.
Yeah.
She's not the live action Ahsoka. Yeah,
she did bring that up. I mean, she knows that all the fans have kind of rallied with her in that sense. And, we're all kind of bummed that she didn't get the chance to play the character. She didn't even get an audition. But
that's crazy to me.
It is kind of crazy. I mean, like, I'm still kind of bummed about it too, but
I am too. I hate when they recast stuff like that. And so I hope, just like they did with Katie Sackhoff, that they'll try to keep it more consistent. We'll see with Freddie Prinze Jr. if that ever becomes a thing, or any of the other Rebels characters.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to wait and see.
I do wonder if that direct, I guess, fan pushback maybe led to Kathleen Kennedy's announcement the other day that they're not going to recast people.
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, that
has something to do with it. Maybe it was just Solo, but who knows?
I guess so. I mean, that's a connection I actually didn't quite make. So yeah, that is interesting. I don't really know exactly. What's funny is Ashley and Dave are at that convention together as of today. So, I highly doubt they wouldn't have run into each other. I mean, they've got each other's phone numbers. There's definitely a long friendship there.
Yeah, I'm sure there was a conversation there at some point. Dave doesn't strike me as the guy who would have just ghosted her.
No, yeah, I'm sure they would have had a conversation that would have had to have been kept on the down low, or something that she couldn't really necessarily speak about. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is, and Ashley, being the person she is obviously very supportive of Rosario's casting. I mean, this dynamic has been seen before, but in reverse with Anakin Skywalker, with the casting of Matt Lanter as a voice for that character. And
I'm sure that was just a budget reason, though.
Maybe. I mean, I don't even know if Hayden was even offered the chance to play the character, but quite frankly, I mean, I don't even know if he would have said yes. That's the thing, right? Like,
it's true. So. Especially at the time, it was. I don't think people who were in big blockbuster cinema movies did TV on the side. Like, that really wasn't a thing.
No,
because it was seen as, I guess, moving backwards in your career. Whereas now it's a lot more. You kind of do whatever.
Yeah, the lines kind of blurred.
Switch back
now.
And forth.
Yeah,
exactly.
Now there's so much quality television out there that the streaming war has kind of blurred that line a little bit, for sure. But
begun the streaming wars has.
Yeah, it has. Deborah Chow, who directs the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, she spoke. It was great to hear from her. Katie Sackhoff was there speaking on behalf of her character Bo-Katan. Diego Luna and Genevieve O'Reilly, who plays Cassian Andor and Mon Mothma in Rogue One, and Genevieve O'Reilly obviously having reprised her role as well from Revenge of the Sith, all the cut scenes. So she's back in Andor. Taylor Gray, voice of Ezra Bridger, was there. Moses Ingram and Rupert Friend, who play Reva the Inquisitor as well as the Grand Inquisitor in Obi-Wan Kenobi, they spoke as well. We had Kathleen Kennedy, the CEO of Lucasfilm, was there with an update on various things, as well as the executive producer from Andor. Her name's Sana Wallenberg. And she was there speaking on behalf of Andor. They also had some people from Willow, Warwick Davis, Joanne Whaley, and John Kasdan were speaking on behalf of Willow.
What's funny is Warwick name dropped that just before he went on stage, he was talking to Harrison Ford, like, behind the scenes. So Harrison was there. He just didn't, at least he wasn't in any of the streamed panels. He showed up as a surprise somewhere.
He is in a panel somewhere, and I wouldn't be surprised if he was if he makes an appearance at some point over the weekend. But yeah, it's so cool to kind of see him more active in the fandom. And, I know we've had conversations about him being a little bitter towards the fandom. Standoffish. Yeah.
But there talks about Indiana Jones here, so I think he might have been a little more excited.
Maybe, yeah, for sure. He's there for Indy.
Exactly. We've talked about this briefly, where Harrison Ford, I feel like he personally doesn't feel like there's a lot of depth to Han Solo, and he got it because they didn't like the casting, I think, originally, or they never found someone who fit it. He was doing the tests,
right?
So they just let him have the part, as opposed to casting someone properly. Whereas Indiana Jones, he was through and through casted as the main character.
Yeah.
So I think he holds it a lot more dear to his heart.
For sure, yeah. That's his kind of baby, his franchise. So, I feel like, if they do have anything in regards to, based on the merchandise reveals and all that, Indy 5's definitely making a heavier appearance, at least as far as recognition goes. I'm surprised after all these years. I know Indy 5's been kind of put on the back burner for a while, but with Star Wars kind of in the forefront. But, really, it's kind of shocking to know that it's been this long since Lucasfilm's been owned by another corporation, really, and Indy 5 still hasn't happened yet. It's just mind-boggling that it's almost been 10 years.
It's a long time. I recall, and I don't know if this is true, but I recall back when Force Awakens was about to come out, there was rumors online that the only reason Harrison Ford agreed to do it was because Disney offered him a signing deal to do Indiana Jones 5. Or else he wouldn't have done it. I don't know if that's true. I just remember that was a big rumor at the time.
Yeah. Well, I remember they did eventually officially announce that they would do that. But yeah, I wonder if that is the rumor that it was part of the signing, I guess, for him to reprise Han Solo.
On the other hand too, though, Indiana Jones is another franchise that would just print money, so why wouldn't they do that? I'm sure, even if there's no relation there, that it was going to happen regardless.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And John Williams, he played the theme for Indy 5, right behind the Obi-Wan Kenobi theme song. So, it was, again, cool. Jealous of everyone who was in the room who got to hear.
He must
John
have done
Williams.
the Willow theme as well then, because they played the Willow theme quite a bit today.
Yeah, he must have. I'm gonna have to check on that. But in the video, he just played Kenobi and Indy. But I don't know. Maybe he did play that one at some point in the room. They put on a mini concert for everyone at the opening ceremony or opening show or whatever. So
that's just so amazing. The fact that John Williams he's 90 now.
I know, right? It's crazy to think. And I almost put this down in the Discord chat and then I just didn't know how to word it properly. But for all those people who was able to see that in person, so fortunate to be able to see that, because it might be one of the last times you see John Williams.
You never know. I think we had this exact conversation right after we missed it in 2017.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, literally anything he does for cinema in his age right now is just a gift. Like, it's just because he loves the series or he loves the show or the film or the character or whatever.
And he's just such a talented guy.
Yeah.
It'll sadden me dearly when his time comes. I feel like it'll be, I would put it, and maybe this is because I'm not as high of an intellectual, but I would put it at the same level as passing as like Bach or Beethoven or something.
Yeah, no, totally.
Music, it gets you right in the emotions, right where it's supposed to every time.
Yeah, and on top of that, it's our current generation of contemporary art really is cinema, and and realistically, he's such a big part of making that what it is, because he's come up with all the biggest themes in Hollywood.
You could just walk up to someone in the street and ask them to hum a tune to a whole bunch of films, whether it be Jaws or Superman or E.T. or Star Wars or Indiana Jones, just so many. And I bet you I bet you almost all of them could do it.
Yeah.
I would put it at over 90%, maybe 95 range.
Oh man, and his work has been played by so many other third parties around the world. Organizing school bands and putting on their own concerts for their own city. I know every city has their own orchestra and sometimes do a concert every year. Sometimes to the duration of an entire film. I know they do in our local city with Harry Potter and Star Wars.
Which was
and all
also
that.
John Williams.
Yeah, and Hedwig's theme, and the first 3 Harry Potter films were all John Williams, and it's just so iconic, right? And you almost can't get more iconic than John Williams in the cinema realm. So yeah,
I don't think so. Because it's not to say there isn't other musicians who are bad at cinema. Like there's a lot, right?
Yeah.
Trying to think of the main other guy, which is make this.
There's like other famous composers.
Yeah, for like who the guy who did all the Christopher Nolan films.
Oh yeah. Hans Zimmer.
Hans Zimmer. I think he's the other. Like I would put him probably next on the tier. But if you asked me to hum most of Hans Zimmer's songs, I don't think I could do it.
Right. No, exactly.
I would say the only one would probably be Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, totally. I think Michael Giacchino, I believe, is quite high up on the list. I mean, this is the guy who came up with the Incredibles theme song. He did the soundtrack for Rogue One. There's been a variety of things he's done, which has been pretty famous. John Powell, famous guy. There's Howard Shore, for his work on Lord of the Rings.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure, Howard Shore.
Yeah, so there's definitely quite a few out there, but for sure, as far as like the very classic cinema themes, you can't get much more original than John Williams. I mean, he's kind of the one who even reinvented the idea of doing a whole. Well, he was also kind of George's idea to do this in his movie, but having a full orchestra the way it was in a action based science fiction cinema like that, there was just nothing like that done before.
No, in one of the documentaries, George speaks to that, and he says at the time everything was like funk and electric guitar.
Yeah.
Could you imagine Star Wars to funk?
I mean, yeah, no. I mean,
we should do a voiceover like version here.
I honestly cannot imagine any movie without the music as God. I mean, Jurassic Park, Harry Potter. I mean, like all the biggest names in Hollywood, as far as cinema franchises go. It's like he's had a hand in almost all of them. It's pretty nuts.
That's exactly it.
So
shout out to John Williams.
Yeah.
Thanks for going to Celebration and just being such an honor to everyone who was able to attend.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, John. We got 2 last things on the itinerary here. They had a huge panel in regards to the High Republic Phase 2. Now, for those out there who aren't really aware of what the High Republic is, it is an era that Star Wars or Lucasfilm has been building out prior to The Phantom Menace. It takes place roughly 200 years up until about the 50 to 100 year mark prior to Episode 1. In the glory days of the Jedi, the glory days of the High Republic. It's called the High Republic because it's the kind of the golden age, I guess, in which the Sith are kind of gone. They're in hiding. We don't even get a glimpse of them in Phase 1 at all. And it's a multimedia project. So there's novels for adults, junior, young adult. There's various comic series. There's an audio exclusive novel. There's even some VR experiences through short stories in the Tales from a Galaxy's Edge, which was really cool to play through. And they've been kind of building visually what this time period looks like. And they've wrapped up all the content for Phase 1 not that long ago. It was a couple months ago. And Phase 2 is kind of
wrapped.
Yeah, Phase 1 is kind of wrapped. So now Phase 2 out of 3 is kind of begun. And
I find that interesting because one of the artworks released looks like the same character from Phase 1.
So which one are you looking at?
The second one down.
Oh,
so there's the woman with the 2 lightsabers. I guess the other woman had a light whip. They looks very similar to her and her tech friend.
Yeah. So so Phase 2 is kind of I don't know. I mean, you're looking at the lady with the green tentacle head. Is that the one?
No. There's the woman with the 2 blue lightsabers, and she's facing some sort of shadow monster.
Oh, I'm trying to find it here. I don't quite see it on the list. Is there a title to the book you're referring to?
Quest for the Hidden City.
The 2 Jedi there. It is 1 Jedi with 2 lightsabers. Yeah, it is.
That's right.
Yeah, I don't really know. This almost looks like the same Jedi as in the picture above, which is called Convergence. Except she's got 2 purple lightsabers there, so I'm not really sure. Yeah. It does say cover not final, so maybe it is the same one. I don't really know. But the Phase 2 era, the way they described it was it's kind of like how George did Star Wars. So he started with the middle, then did the beginning, then Disney did the end. So they're kind of approaching it the same way, where Phase 1 was the middle, Phase 2 is going to be like a flashback, and then Phase 3 is going to be a conclusion.
Oh, weird.
So I'm not really a huge fan of that because, I feel like, it wasn't George's intention to start with the middle. It was just what he was kind of restricted to for the technology at the time, right?
Right.
And I feel like approaching it from that standpoint, it's like, well, in some ways it's beneficial because you can kind of just get right into it without needing to come up with a beginning. But it's going to be confusing as heck for anyone trying to like navigate the plethora of High Republic content out there.
Yeah, because this means if you're going to, let's say someone wants to get into the novels and they just look up, this series, whatever, read this book, and then they'll find out that the ones that come later come before.
Yeah, it's going to be weird, right? I mean, like, and
are they all going to say prequel? Like, how does that work?
Well, the Phase 1, the Star Wars High Republic logo is all gold, and Phase 2, they're going with a blue banner. So you'll be able to tell if it's Phase 2 if it has a blue logo for the title. Gotcha. That's kind of the general Phase 2 theme, I guess. But they announced so much stuff today. It was unbelievable. Like they pretty much just slammed down on the table their entire lineup of stuff. And, that was pretty much it. So
playing poker and you got to show your hand, like final call.
Yeah, exactly. So, I'm not going to bother reading through all the titles because it's going to just mean nothing to everyone listening. But, if you are interested in the High Republic, definitely go and check it out. There was a plethora of concept art released for Phase 2 as well, which was really cool. I've got all of those posted in the Celebration Buzz channel on the Discord, as well as screenshots of all the covers for all of the future books that are coming our way as well. So all of that content's in there. One thing I do want to highlight, though, and one thing I do want to talk about briefly with you is an audio exclusive book. In Phase 1, they did one of these. It was called Tempest Runner. I just finished listening to it a couple days ago. It was called Tempest Runner. And I finished listening to it a couple days ago. It was kind of a highlight story for the Nihil
Twi'lek woman, right?
Yeah, the Twi'lek woman. Yeah.
Okay, I did listen to that then.
Yeah, so it was okay. I'm not going to say it was the best one I've ever listened to. I think Dooku Jedi Lost was probably the best audio exclusive book that I've ever listened to, but it wasn't bad. What confused me a lot was the way that it navigated the story. So it very similar to Dooku Jedi Lost, where Ventress is recounting events in Dooku's journal. This story for Tempest Runner was kind of a bunch of people in a bar having a conversation about events that someone witnessed happened or whatever, and fills in the story that way. And it was a very long story. Like if you look at the novel printed script for this audiobook, it's quite hefty. It's quite thick. I think it was 13 hours or 14 hours long.
Okay. So yeah, it's quite long.
That is quite long. Yeah.
Most Star Wars books in audio format, I think around the 7-hour mark. So
yeah.
For context.
And that's books that are done in audio adaptation, right? Unabridged. Right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So this being done exclusively for audio, it's definitely presented very well. Performance is great, as always, but definitely quite a long story. And to be fair, not a character that I was that attached to when I first started getting into High Republic. I mean, I haven't read absolutely everything from Phase 1, but you and I both have read quite a decent amount. And,
and
overall,
the most interesting part was unquestionably the Nihil.
Yeah.
And so
what I was just about to say, like, what were your thoughts in general for people who might be interested in checking High Republic out? What did you think of Phase 1 in general? Like, out of all the stuff you did read?
Highs and lows. I would say I really liked the concept of Nihil. I thought they were a lot of fun. They're really cool in the fact that the Jedi had never really dealt with, I guess you can consider them brigands or Vikings, space Vikings, where they were ruthless in a way that they would do things in, say, like space combat. They would kill their own to take out specific Republic ships and stuff. So in regular military training, or what the Jedi were always taught, were, life is valuable. So they would never think that an enemy would be so ruthless. So it was kind of like sort of along those lines. And then the Nihil themselves came across a lot like the space version of all the like the punk kind of rocker wastelanders that you have in a lot of the Mad Max films, which I thought was super cool. I really liked that a lot.
Yeah, it's a good way to describe them for sure. So as far as a villain complexity goes, they're new and they're interesting. Personally, I was more interested about Mark-Yon Rowe than I was.
Who's their leader?
Yeah, who's the leader. And he does have a comic book storyline about his origins, I think, which I still haven't.
So we finally saw what he looked like. So he's a super nerdy, intellectual voice, and then he's super ripped. Yeah. So it just didn't feel right to me, but yeah, I guess it is what it is.
Yeah. I still haven't actually read it myself, but the audio book being based on Lorna D, which is one of the other leaders, I don't know, I just couldn't really get into it. Like I listened to the whole thing, but it wasn't really for me. This next Phase 2 thing, which I wanted to bring up though, is this is the Phase 2 audiobook highlight of this new wave of stories, and it's called The Battle of Jeddah. And that to me is fascinating because it's not about a single character, at least based on the title. And Jeddah, as we know from Rogue One, is that ruined Jedi city that we saw get blown up by the Death Star.
That's right.
So that'll be really sweet to see, and I know the movie did a great job at highlighting, torn down statues and the wreckage that was left behind.
I was surprised by this, to be honest, because I think it's going to be really cool. But when I saw Rogue One with the fallen statues and everything, I was left the impression that was thousands of years ago, not 200.
Yeah, I guess it was just never really quite confirmed. I think people of the visual dictionary will, or people who have the visual dictionary will probably be able to confirm if anything's been specifically written about those particular statues in that city. But, I guess there was room to squeeze in a story about how that city falls. And it's just interesting to me that they've gone as far as including that, because it's a great opportunity to take advantage of them going back further with Phase 2, because we know that Light of the Jedi and the Phase 1 of the High Republic takes place 200 years before the Phantom Menace. Well, Phase 2 is supposed to be an additional 150 years before Phase 1 does. So Now we're looking at 350 years before. Yeah,
Right.
that's what's so confusing about, phase.
I thought it was just 150, not.
No, yeah, it's an additional, so 350 or so. It's that's why it's so confusing.
Because I thought it was later originally, so it's 200 and then 150.
Yeah,
so now we're getting closer. To
this is why I'm so unsure about how they've done this planning for the story, but yeah, it's kind of neat.
Star Wars anthology film.
Yeah, yeah.
Very quickly turned a Star Wars story.
Yeah, so it's gonna be cool to see, where that story goes. I'm gonna definitely pick that one up, when it comes out, and I'll try and get around to as much of this Phase 2 stuff as possible.
Yeah, I do think before we move on that it's worth mentioning the two other important points, which are both quite a change to Star Wars. At least if you're fans of games like Tor or KOTOR. The bigger one in that regard is they actually are changing the tech throughout the galaxy for this phase. So you're not able to make calls like through holoprojectors, anything along those lines at this timeline. They're actually sending messages similar to like medieval times or ancient Greek, or even up to the creation of the not just the telephone but also the what's that thing called?
Oh, like Morse code. I know the device that the radio frequency.
Yeah, like know the name of it. But prior to any technology, so they have droids that will be like messengers, and you record a message, and then the droid would get on a ship and fly to that person, and they would personally receive it. So like pigeon notes.
It's kind of interesting because it really kind of reduces how much long-standing history the galaxy has with global telecommunications. I mean, if anyone really is familiar with expanded universe, with Star Wars Legends going back as far as the Knights of the Old Republic and all this and that, holograms and everything, that's all a thing still. So. Yep. Them changing that up where hologram technology and visual technology of video communications and audio communications and all this and that, it's not really a thing 350 years before the Phantom Menace. I'm unsure about
that because they worded it specifically, because they mentioned that the technology doesn't change for 10,000 years. So the technology still exists. It's just there's no infrastructure. So I think this might be the case only for the Outer Rim planets.
That would make sense. That would make sense.
I'm not 100% sure on that.
That actually does make sense because Starlight Beacon is supposed to kind of be that antenna for the Outer Rim or for that section of space. But yeah, it is kind of like, I don't know. It's just one of those things that never came up, back in the Old Republic, right? Like you could just communicate with anyone anywhere.
Telegram received on the beep 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 DVO.
Oh, the Morse code machine, Telegram.
That's right.
These days people know Telegram as an app.
yeah, that's true.
So it's interesting, and I guess it kind of does play into the fact that Force Awakens kicked things off with a hologram that had color to it. That was new for the time, and only taking place, 25
Could you imagine
years later.
Technology doesn't change for 10,000 years, and then they suddenly decide to add color. It's like black and white television for 10,000 years.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like with Force Awakens taking place 29 to 30 years later after Return of the Jedi, I mean, technology changed so much in that time frame. And, it's just, I feel like Star Wars with the technology on board various ships and equipments and everything, not knowing when that vehicle or whatever was built, it's hard to pin down exactly how good things are at any point in the series, because in the prequels there's so much with the Techno Union ships and all that, and there's a lot more holograms, there's a lot more kind of the visual effects were better, of course, so there was a bit more to do, but in the original trilogy the holograms are not that great, and people relied more on the video screens. And then in the sequels,
yeah, that's true.
In the sequels, that's kind of like it's kind of crazy with the holograms being like fully colored and everything. And then you flash back.
They didn't use a lot of screens. In fact, the only time I can think of, actually, there's two times that they used screens were both in the Phantom Menace. Once where you're in the royal chambers with Queen Amidala, and they have that weird like watery TV screen.
Yeah, the Trade Federation has that like morphing wall.
Yeah, and she has one too there, and they talk through that. And the only other time I could think of was the deleted scene where there's that guy who like awkwardly like pushes over the droid.
Yeah, totally. It's kind of a. I guess there's video screens on board the ships in Episode 3 and such,
and we see it in Clone Wars.
Yeah.
For example, when they pretend to be the droids and they hold like the B-1 battle droid head up in front of the camera.
Yeah, that's right. That's true. Yeah, video screens, I guess, were always kind of a thing. But
just a lot less. They generally used holograms, and I bet that was a decision by George because he had the tech to do it more often.
For sure.
And the budget.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. So it is interesting going back this far, 350 years prior, and telecommunications is only really a thing if you're within realm of
probably the core or mid-range.
Yeah. And even at that, I would even wonder like, oh, maybe it only works, per planet kind of thing. And then
I can't get a signal.
Yeah.
Let me climb on the hill.
Well, through phase 1, they made such a big deal about the communication outpost and so there was an entire book called Race to Crash Point Tower. Which was, when the Galactic Fairground happens and the Nihil attack the fair, there's an antenna that's like attacked or whatever from the Nihil and communications are knocked out.
They knock out communication, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like that one antenna serviced the entire planet. And it's like, okay, that probably wouldn't happen like in the movies. So they've been kind of hinting at us, in that regards with phase 1. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see like kind of like how they build out this section of Star Wars. It's going to be definitely the most different thing that we've seen. And phase 2 will now be the newest, latest thing that takes place so far behind the films that it'll be the earliest point in chronological order as to where we would technically start the story. So
yeah,
there's that as well. True. Yeah.
What do you think about the fact there being 2 chancellors?
Yeah, that was interesting to me. I mean, I kind of saw the need, as the galaxy grows, more and more planets kind of join the Republic or the system, I guess. And with the communications the way that they are, it would almost make sense to have 2 people doing what they do that work in cohesion with each other, that travel, communicate with each other, and then go back to their respective territories.
Thinking of it that way.
Yeah, it would make sense. I know some cities have multiple mayors based on the size and quantity of people and all that. So it to me, it made perfect sense.
Comparing to history, I feel like the only time that ever happens is Civil War.
Well, if they are leading to that, it's going to be interesting.
They said it's not. They said it's a golden age where they're working together. I mean, who knows if that changes? But that's what they said in the panel.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just looked at it as it's a communications thing. Like the galaxy is just too big for the technology of the time. Whereas we get to the prequels and, the Emperor is able to execute all the Jedi across the galaxy with one phone call. Like, it's kind of a different time. So, almost like how times today are different than they were 100 years ago. People were sending messenger boys with letters, and it was, in almost like an entire strategy of the war would be in the hands of a boy running across a country.
That was more than 100 years ago, but
so I mean, we're looking at World War I here, going, I guess more than 100 years ago. But yeah, it's different times, even 100 years ago on our own planet. I mean, you flash back 350 years. I mean, that's
100 years ago probably been like the dawn of the motor car.
Yeah. So I just remember like seeing that 1917 movie, and the entire plot of the movie is just about this letter that needs to, or this
be delivered.
Yeah. And, it was a great movie, by the way.
How funny! We should do a supercut where it's that, and then the person gets the letter and opens it, and it's like a pizza order.
Yeah, yeah.
30 minutes or less.
What did you think of the leveler revealed finally? We finally got the visual look of these creatures, which were kind of hinted at or introduced to us at the very end of the Light of the Jedi novel. And in the Phase 2 artwork here, they've finally kind of revealed what those things look like and how terrifying they really are. What do you think of the design of these creatures?
Where am I? Oh, these things.
Yeah, there's one they're called the Nameless. And the leveler is the one with the
That's what I call writer's block.
Yeah.
This to me looks like something out of Warcraft.
It's interesting.
That's what I would say.
I mean, it's definitely obscure.
What's that guy's called?
Looks like a D&D monster.
Hart. What's his name? Yeah, I can see that as well.
Yeah.
Man, what's the name of that guy? Something Hart.
Oh,
he's like that famous writer.
Oh, I
did like the Kraken and stuff.
Yeah, it looks like something that he came up with then.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, that is High Republic, Phase 2 on its way, and
I should comment on it. The monsters or whatever here, the Nameless. I wonder if this is them doing a soft reboot with the plant creatures because they didn't get the reaction they wanted.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it really depends how far back this planning goes with all this stuff, because the Drengir were introduced fairly early on.
Drengir. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you and I both talked about when we first heard of the Drengir, we thought they were going to be like a horror movie-esque kind of monster where they just were like after food and they were relentless. Whereas we got an intellectual creature that was like speaking but was pure evil.
Right.
Which to me was less interesting. To me, it'd be cool to have this unstoppable like feeding monster, and the Jedi like don't know how to deal with it. It's like just spreads, right?
Yeah.
Like the Thing.
Yeah, well, these things look terrifying, so, I'm looking forward to Phase 2, and it should be interesting to see. So, Phase 2, everyone of High Republic, you can look forward to that. Last thing on our list is the Willow trailer dropped, and let's.
Looks cool.
It looks awesome. Let's take a listen.
There is a story of a child destined to be an empress, and the unlikely hero who would protect her.
There is a balance between all things. Light and shadow. Good and evil. When that balance is upset, the universe corrects.
The world needs you again. It needs your magic.
Into the unknown. That's where we must go.
November 30th is when Willow comes to Disney Plus, and it looks great. I've never actually seen the first one. I'm gonna have to watch that at some point.
You gotta check it out, man. It's a classic. It's higher fantasy than Lord of the Rings, because this at the time when it came out was what a lot of fantasy films were like. I know there's a Tom Cruise one as well. I think it's called Legendary.
Yeah,
and they were all. They're all less gritty than what we got with Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings really changed the tone. So I'm curious to see what this is going to be like, if they're going to play into that high fantasy style, or
Yeah.
if they're going to try to do something more modern. But from the trailer, I know it looked a lot like the first season of The Wheel of Time, which I really enjoyed.
That's good. That's good. For Wheel of Time, I kind of I don't know. I liked it, but I also was a bit underwhelmed because of the hype that surrounded the show. And I never read the books, but I do have a friend or two that read the books more than once, and
I read those.
Not too impressed with the show, but Willow, man, like I'm super looking forward to the show. I'm gonna be watching Willow, this weekend, and catching up on that franchise and that title. It looks great. It's great to see more fantasy stuff out there because I feel like there's just not enough of it.
Yeah, for sure. And seeing Warwick Davis again reprise his role, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then I know it's Kasdan's son, same guy who co-wrote the Solo movie, looks like he's going to be penning this.
Right. Yeah. So he's I mean, I enjoyed Solo. So it should be interesting. And it's got a great cast of people. They've got a number of people returning from Solo, I guess, with Warwick and
you mean Willow?
I forget. Yeah, Willow. And a few names I forgot to put on the list of panel speakers was the girl who plays Enfys Nest, and there was one or two others with her as well who were cast members on the show. But it was neat to see them all come together again, and we get more Lucasfilm stories. So it's gonna be cool.
Yeah, it's gonna be super cool. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it looks good.
I'd like to bring up one last thing here. We got a package sent to us in the escape pod. Let me just go get it here. All right, here it is. You're fresh off the.
Did you just reach out the window of the escape pod?
Oh, I did.
Vacuum of space.
Oh no! Yeah, you're right. Hold on a second here. I gotta fix that.
All right, that was close. You gotta close that lock.
That was close.
Merchandising. Merchandising? What's that? Merchandising. Come, I'll show you. Open up the store. Merchandising, where the real money from the movie is made. That kids love this one.
All right, so our friends at Orbit Key have so kindly sent us a few of their new Star Wars lineup, which consists. I know we talked about these products on May the 4th. They gave us the early info that they would be releasing a Star Wars lineup through Orbit Key. And they have a variety of key organizers based on various character designs, including Boba Fett, The Mandalorian, Grogu, and Emperor Palpatine, all within Canada, costing $69.90. And a bunch of these are, I think it's the Mandalorian one is no longer available, which I know these are limited edition. I don't know if that one's coming back in stock or not, but as of this moment, there's only 3 out of the 4 that are available on the website, which is mind-blowing. This is obviously, a successful product. I feel like any Star Wars fan likes limited edition anything, so definitely get your hands on these, because I've got one sitting in front of me right now, along with a great accessory that goes with it called the Multi-Tool version 2, with 9 functions in one slim profile that you can actually fit into this keychain. And it comes in a nice matte black like cardboard box with kind of a slide out slipcase sort of ordeal. And oh man, taking this out of the box is this is great. On the inside you see a picture of this is a card. It's a card. All right, it says in Orabesh on the front, Mandalorian. So I've got the Mandalorian one in front of me right now. And flipping this thing over, it says The Mandalorian. This limited edition key organizer features a charcoal Crazy Horse leather band with brown stitching that resembles the bounty hunter's armor. The Beskar-inspired silver polished hardware and durable brown leather lining is synonymous with the Mandalorian's intimidating stance. And then there's a little section about the Mandalorian. Known by many as Mando, and few by the name Din Djarin. The Mandalorian is a battle-hardened bounty hunter recognized by his distinctive Beskar helmet and formidable reputation. A member of the Bounty Hunters Guild, the Mandalorian collects bounties as he travels across the galaxy's outer rim. And then at the bottom it says, travel the galaxy. And in front of that we have our keychain, our lovely keychain on almost like a little booklet. And on the back of that booklet it says, from the original trilogy to The Mandalorian, the Star Wars galaxy is filled with endless stories and timeless characters inspired by iconic heroes and villains. These limited edition key organizers celebrate Star Wars in orbit keys, elegant and understated design language. Unlock your destiny throughout the galaxy. May the Force be with you. And then you get the little Lucasfilm trademark down there. There's a little using the key organizer, how to assemble, the ecosystem, the accessories you can get for it inside the booklet, and then on the front is the keychain itself, and on the inside is inscribed in Orbesh, Mandalorian. So I've got the other ones in front of me here: Emperor Palpatine, Grogu, and Boba Fett, and there's an about section on their unique character cards that comes in the box with the keychain, as well as an about section for the keychain. And it says on Emperor Palpatine's here, no design better exemplifies the sheer power and status the Emperor holds throughout the galaxy than this limited edition black Saffiano leather key organizer. The luxurious band is detailed and textured with deep purple stitching and leather lining that is synonymous with Palpatine's Sith robes, the reminiscent of the Sith Lord's devastating Force lightning abilities. And then about the Emperor, the most infamous Dark Lord of the Sith, Palpatine lived a double life as a Naboo senator and Phantom Menace. The Emperor restored the Sith and destroyed the Jedi Order, ruling the galaxy through tyranny and fear. And the keychain for this one is awesome as well. The clasp is kind of like a matte black, and it's got a nice kind of glossy finish on the outside. Definitely recommend. There's one here for Boba Fett. It says, like the bounty hunter's armor designed to withstand the unforgiving dunes of Tatooine, this limited edition key organizer is designed to withstand the toughest environments in your galaxy. The contemporary camo nylon band and maroon leather linings pay homage to Boba Fett's iconic helmet and chest plate, while gunmetal hardware is reminiscent of his dangerous armaments. And this one is also really cool with a brushed matte black clasp for your keys, and kind of like a military style textured outside camo, much like Boba Fett himself, and that red interior is just is awesome. About Boba Fett, was one of the most feared and dangerous bounty hunters in the galaxy. With custom Mandalorian armor, deadly weapons, and combat skills, Boba Fett became a legend through many contracts with the Empire and the criminal underworld. Now he's a simple man making his way through the galaxy. All right, and last up we have Grogu, crafted with light tan suede and complementing hints of green in the stitching and leather lining. This Grogu-inspired limited edition key organizer embodies the design of his comforting robes. The silver hardware is symbolic of Grogu's curiosity towards his favorite mechanical components within the Razor Crest and his undeniable cheekiness. And this one has a bit of more of a matte silver kind of look to the keychain, unlike the Mandalorian one, which is very metallic on the clasp. This one's a bit more matte silver, and definitely represents the little gear shift knob that he's absolutely fascinated with. And again, the leather and lining on this is definitely genuine. It's awesome. It's not gonna rip. Feels great, and feels very, very nice. And then onto the About Grogu section, it says, a mysterious Force-sensitive alien pursued by bounty hunters on behalf of the fallen Imperial Empire. Grogu's strength with the Force once saved the Mandalorian's life, creating an inseparable bond as they traveled across the galaxy. So as we mentioned on May the 4th when we revealed this product, these are great for holding your keys in a nice, almost like I would describe it as a sheath. You can look it up for yourself on the Orbit Key website, but it's definitely a great way to keep your keys organized in a nice little stack between the folds of a nice leather kind of loop. The clasp and the character design elements of each of these really provide a nice, unique kind of feel and vibe about it. And for any Star Wars fan not looking for a more luxurious element of merchandising is definitely going to love this. So great gift for Father's Day coming up. Great gift for any significant other, a friend's birthday. Any Star Wars collectors out there are going to absolutely love these. So make sure you get your hands on them before they're gone. These are absolutely fantastic, and the multi-tool that kind of goes hand in hand with it, with 9 functions. Let me just read through this real quick. Multifunctional box cutter, bottle opener, pry bar, flathead screwdriver, a PH2 Phillips head screwdriver, letter opener, metric ruler, imperial ruler, and coarse file, all in a slim profile that attaches to the keychain itself. And this thing is absolutely fantastic. I mean, this has got more features than a lightsaber. So I'm going to be carrying my keys around on this thing. A huge shout out and thank you to Orbit Key. We had a great time chatting, revealing your special Star Wars product line on May the 4th. And, what a great surprise to have these turn up right here in the Escape Pod. So looking forward to all these other Star Wars products that you guys may or may not have lined up down the road. For all those listeners out there of ours, go and check out orbitkey.ca, or I guess it would be orbitkey.com, depending on what country you're in. And, definitely check out the Star Wars lineup, obviously. Pick up a few accessories to go with it. There's a number that are available, including this multi-tool version 2, as well as the Orbit Key Ring and a clip version 2. I'm looking forward to slamming my keys on this thing, and I know the rest of our teammates are as well. Check it out, Orbit Key, Star Wars collaboration. Thank you again to Orbit Key, and we're looking forward to seeing what you guys do in the future. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning into the show. And, we love chatting about Star Wars. It's pretty much the only reason why we do this. It's not a job. We don't get paid for doing this podcast or anything like that. So, any kind of support as far as dropping a 5-star or nice review, even just sending us like a kind email with just some nice words about, what we're doing here to make your day, chatting Star Wars and the galaxies far, far away. It goes a long way as far as the reason why we even do this in the first place. And we'd probably be doing it anyways, but we always love to hear from you guys, and any kind words would be much appreciated. The podcast is now available on Samsung Podcasts as well as Podchaser. So if you have either of those platforms or an account on either, you can find Star Wars Escape Pod on there. And make sure you tune in the coming couple days for more reviews and catch-ups on Star Wars Celebration, as well as Obi-Wan Kenobi, premiering tonight on Disney+. So go check out the Star Wars Orbit Key Collection, catch Obi-Wan on Disney+, and check out Star Wars Celebration Day 2 tomorrow. We'll see you in the next episode, and may the Force be with you.